when you raise a fund, that's great. Then you've got to spend the money. And your first deal is always important. Good people make good businesses. You can even have bad ideas that are run by good people, and that will be a successful business. And so it comes back to the people. So great management teams really like to say to companies, guys, we're working with you and we're aligned with you to make this business the best it could be. Agathos, founded in 2014, and we, with my better half, as in my better business half, a guy called Charles Oakchat. We're not married. And bit of background, I'm very not private equity by background, so I kind of university, went into the army for 6 years, and then left the army after I kind of done my time, and then moved in, got a job at JP Morgan, did an MBA, and all this conversation was around private equity. And I thought that was okay, that sounds like a pretty interesting place to be, because I would say a half-cut entrepreneur at university, setting up businesses. A lot of them failed. Some was actually brutal. And I managed to get an internship that turned into a full-time job at another private equity fund. And 6 years later, they offered me a partnership, and I decided that was a good point to part company. And then some investors said, "Do you want to? We can back you to start your own fund," and hence Agathos was born in 2014. And that was a first-time fund, 20 million, backed by kind of 5 investors. Super exciting, really hard work. And we now are on our second fund, which is fund 2. We're targeting, we got to 40 million. We've got another close coming up in December, and then a final close in February. And we'll probably get to about 65 million. And that's the size that we want to be for the market that we're taking on. As a small fund, so we're going to get to 65 million quite comfortably, and so that means we're going to target 8 investments roughly within that. So kind of 6 to 8 investments, so ranging from probably our smallest check size would be 3 million, largest maybe 10, and Hunter kind of sits in the middle there. It's kind of 8 million we put out. It's being really selective about companies you want to work with, and I can't tell you, I think as a fund, you're part of model is to look at a lot of deals. We've seen 230 opportunities that have come in over the course of this year. We've whittled that down to 45 meetings in terms of engagements with management teams, 18 screening papers, 11 offers, 1 deal. I guess with my military background, people make businesses. Good people make good businesses. You can even have bad ideas that are run by good people, and that will be a successful business. And so it comes back to the people. So great management teams, energy, drive, vision. Obviously then you're looking for sectors that are in nice market dynamics, so tailwinds behind them. So whether it be semiconductor, whether it be healthcare, whether it be plastics in terms of 3D printing, or looking at the market objectively. And then I think the deal structure is always important for me. Alignment from top to bottom, from the fund, private equity fund, because we like to take, we can take minority stakes as well as majority stakes, but we won't be a minority with lots of other investors. We really like to say to companies, guys, we're working with you and we're aligned with you to make this business the best it could be. And that is so important. It's because that alignment from top to bottom of any structure, so it is absolutely critical. And so and once you've got a mix of all of those things, you have a deal like Hunter Healthcare, where you've got a great team, great market dynamics, really energized, and we can add value in doing some of the stuff that those management teams might be not as good at, like other things. And that's the humility of working with a team of people that really know what they're doing, but then also as private equity professionals coming in there to, I suppose, be the backbone to help them grow. And that's partly the way I like to look at it. With Fund 2, we've hired on some new talent. A guy called Hugh Costello, who's absolutely brilliant. He's kind of inflection BGF, and he's kind of come to join the tribe. a guy called Tom Street and John Butterworth, who's come from kind of competing funds. So we've got the bandwidth. I'm a eternal optimist. So my problem is everything looks great. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. let's do that one. I'm really reliant on, Hugh's experience in terms of, pulling it apart and saying, well, is it right for us? And does it have all the kind of core I suppose, ingredients that we're looking for as a fund? So yes, of course, there's deals that pass you by. I think our real challenge has been with launching Fund 2 is just getting out there in the market during COVID, right? Meeting, advisors and engaging with banks and lawyers and all of these, all the people who have the opportunity sitting on their desk and saying, hey, we're here, we're ready to go, work with us. That's the part of the hindrance. Actually working, that's the trust of working with such a high caliber team. I feel very, very lucky that so what's the kind of, there's no I in team, right? It's like I'm just a part of the Agathos, although I kind of founded it. I think having the trust in people to say, no, your view is more grounded because you've had more experience in that area. One of the reasons why we're running a strategy with a committed fund at this end of the market, 50 to 60 million, that's a small fund, right? Mid-market funds, 500 million above, and you look at, I don't know, Fleming Family Partners, you look at Mobius, these guys are raising 250 million pound funds. So their check sizes are much bigger than us. I think at this end of the market, being a committed fund, so as in, we're not deal by deal, we're not a connection, we're not a rock pool, very talented teams, but they're raising money as they get into deals. I think that adds a competitive advantage, definitely at this end of the market. There's probably 5 firms that we see out there at this end. I know some of the other larger funds are starting to try and dip down, but so I think it's committed capital, to answer your question in terms of what is your competitive advantage. Great people, we back great management teams. We should have great people within the firms, paying commensurate rates, and making sure the guys are incentivized through carry and they're happy. My skill set was more on the restructuring side, so speed of movement is I'd say that is we don't have. So myself and Charles Oakeshott, we sit on the investment committee. We make the decisions. Those decisions sit with us, and so there's not a second tier or third tier of investment committees that we've got to go through. So therefore, we can make quick and dynamic decisions. I think being around since 2014 helps, and obviously I had a reputation before that as well. So I kind of went into the private equity sphere in 2008, 2008, I think. You know what? I think there's lots of misnomers. Similar, right? I leave the army, go and work at JP Morgan, and there's just so much that I just didn't understand, as in derivatives and equity. What's a derivative and what's a long only holding equity, and and actually when you break it down, some of those things are really quite simple, rocket science. And same with private equity, it's not rocket science. What is private equity? Private money given to some people to invest in companies. That's the simplicity. Now then it comes into, I think there's a lot of at the bigger end of the market, financial engineering, which is actually not about improving a business. It's about loads of debt, small amounts of equity, borrowing it. It's kind of like, I'm a great believer in the bigger funds. There's some real talent in there, and some of the I think of Palatine, they have investment improvement teams, the kind of team of 20 guys who own business. But some of the other funds, they do give a bad rep because it's kind of like a small group of guys controlling huge amounts of capital and not actually doing very much for it. So I think it comes back to, if I was a company and you're looking at private equity, or you're looking at a family office, it's trying to gauge who you're working with, and that, and do you fundamentally like the team that you're working with? Do you think you're aligned with them? And don't necessarily always get an alternate perspective. If I was a company, I'd say call the companies they work with, call the management teams that they're working with, and ask them to speak. And don't settle just for the list that they give you. Oh, speak to Jeremy, speak to Simon. No. I'll make a decision. I want to speak to Tony from Vicoma, or that's it, right? In ours. And always ask questions. Be open. If you don't understand something, the private equity's got a name for itself in terms of coming up with convoluted, crazy structures. Well, if you don't understand it, just ask. What does this mean? How does this equity balancing thing work for us in the management team, and talk it through kind of simplistically. If you are a company looking for investment, find a great advisor. That's one of the most. Not only will it make your life easier, it will make you're working with a professional who then knows the market and landscape. And when it comes to some of those advisors being wary of private equity, what's the difference between private equity and what are your options? Private equity, direct investment from high net worth, for investors looking for a trade sale, right? Okay, well, my response to that would be coming back to alignment. Fine, you look for a trade sale. What's going to happen to how's the business going to be swallowed? Effectively, you might get a great offer. Is your business right for a trade sale now, or could you make a bigger turn when it's more established and trade really want to have a look at it? High net worths and investors, some are great, some are really sophisticated, others are very silent money. So if all you want is money, great, go for a passive investor that gives you cash and maybe cash you out some equity. But if you want a team to help drive your business, then look at private equity, but be selective. Guys, it's a pleasure. I think what you do as a firm is great in terms of educating kind of the broader community, and so that's thank you for including me. I really appreciate it.